complete the annual return for your sub-branch. Once you have logged into the sub-branch portal, from the home page, you can navigate to annual returns. And from here, you'll see that there's an annual returns list. At this stage, there'll just be 1 year. For now, we've got 2022 in our test environment. I'll click on that and it'll open up the annual return. At the top, there are some instructions. You can see that there's a navigation menu to the left, and this lists the different sections so that you can see which stage of the return you're up to. In order to navigate, you'll need to click Next. Once we move to the next page, you'll see that there's a Previous button also. Unfortunately, that's the only way we can navigate. The functionality doesn't exist to click along the navigation menu. Also, a Generate Annual Form PDF at the bottom of each section. You can generate the PDF, which will produce a downloaded annual return form, and it will show you the completed information that you've populated up until that point after clicking Next. The Next button also serves as a Save button. In our test environment, we can see that we've got the mailing address, which is pulled directly from the CE. If that needs to be changed, you can enter that in here. The main point of contact will allow you to look up the office bearers associated with the sub-branch. Please enter the main point of contact phone number, and again, use the lookup to look up records to select the main who's completed the annual return. So in this case, I will select Test, and I'll move on to the next part of the annual return. First part of the annual return is the income section. The income section is broken down into different areas. Firstly, investments, which includes interest, dividends, rent, and realised gain loss on sale of investments or property. So that's anything that's been sold within the financial year. Membership fees, we know that that'll be zero for the 2022 year. Member contributions to functions, member contributions to bus trips, excursion, and member donations or contributions. That will include the administration fee from 2022 onwards. The appeals, anything to do with fundraising for either the Poppy Appeal or the Anzac Appeal during the year. Fundraising, other donations received. The sub-branch may have received donations from the general public, businesses, other RSL entities, so that could be the auxiliaries or other sub-branches who've provided donations to the sub-branch, registered clubs, and any other. Other fundraising, so if the sub-branch held any raffles, barbecues, or anything else, that would go there. Any grants would go in the next section. We've got bequests, grants received from clubs, DVA grants, including the BEST grant, or any government grants at a federal, state, or local level. We have the option to then include other grants received non-recourse, where you can enter in the details. To create a new line, you would click on the Create button. A secondary window will pop up, and you'll need to include the name and the amount. I've already populated them, and you can see them here. Using the arrow pointing down, I can either edit or delete one of the lines I've already populated. Once I'm happy, I would click Submit. Other comprehensive income, so unrealised gain loss on investment. So this would be the revaluation of the investment portfolio held by the sub-branch, and the revaluation of property if a valuation was conducted within the financial year. Total income is automated, and I'm trying to delete it. You can see that that field is locked. I'll select Next, which will save the information. You can see on the navigation menu, now we're in Expenditure. Just a quick reminder that we have split expenditure into administration and welfare, and that we do have separate lines for salaries and wages for administration, salaries and wages for welfare related roles, and they should be entered separately. Move through. We also have a section for member-related expenses, appeals and fundraising-related expenses, commemoration-related expenses, and welfare. Again, other welfare activities, you have the option to add additional items by clicking the Create button, and again, making any amendments as required. You can see the total other welfare activities will total on its own. And again, total expenditure is automatically calculated. In donations, we've got AFOF donations, RSL New South Wales Veteran Support Fund, which includes RSL Defence Care, Support and Assistance, Strategic Plan, Anzac House, and any RSL related donations essentially will be populated here. Any donations for memorials or new repairs, restorations are included as well. And schools, any scholarships, books, educational materials aligned with a charitable purpose would also be included. You have the option to, again, create other donations by clicking on Create, and you can see that it's totaled in total other donations, and the total donations paid automatically summed at the bottom. Here's a summary of the net income loss after donations. So we can see that our income exceeded our expenditure. We have a net income of nearly $180,000 for the year, total donations of 90, and therefore our net income after donations of 89,275. Now we move on to note 2. If the sub-branch holds land and buildings, it would be populated here. Again, if we open a new Create button, this is where we can enter the details. There's a drop-down list for property type, commercial, retail, club premises, residential, or land, the property use, the address, can toggle on the valuation date, ideally 31 December or any time before the 31 December 2021, the lot number, the DP number, and the valuation amount. I'll close this. I've already submitted 2. You can see that they were both $2 million, and we have a total land and buildings at valuation of $4 million. In note 3, if the sub-branch received any grants that are refundable and it didn't spend all of the grants before the end of the financial year, this is where it would enter the details. So I'll show you one I've populated. I've just clicked on the down arrow. This grant is from a trust. It's a community grant. $4,000 was originally received. It was received on the 2nd of December 2021. Sub-branch has until the 28th of February 2022 to expend the $4,000 grant. $900 remained at the end of the financial year. Moving on to note 4A. This is a list of current investment assets, term deposits. Again, moving through one of the options if the sub-branch has any. I should have said earlier that if the sub-branch doesn't have any land grants or anything within the notes, we just leave them blank and click through to next. In this example, we've got the Australian Military Bank holding $200,000 in a term deposit maturing on the 1st of April 2022. And the final note, shares and equity portfolio. Not required to disclose the individual shareholdings, although if the sub-branch does hold shareholdings individually, there is an option there to put in the shareholdings there. Otherwise, the total of the portfolio held by the sub-branch. It would include the name of the fund, the portfolio advisor or the manager, the cost, so how much was initially invested, and the market value at 31 December. We move through now to our assets and liabilities, which is the balance sheet. So here we would enter any cash at bank, petty cash, cash on premises, Any fundraising appeal stock that hasn't been utilised and is being held by the sub-branch. Here in current assets, investments for the fixed term deposits and the shares and equities. This is a locked field which comes through from note 4A and 4B. Receivables, GST receivable prepayments. There's an option for other current assets, and you would create it here as we have using the same functionality of the create button. Simply need to enter the name and the amount and submit. And you can edit or delete as required. Total current assets is the sum of all of the categories above. Got a list here of non-current assets. Land and buildings has come from note 2. Motor vehicles and any depreciation, also furniture, equipment and any depreciation. You'll enter the depreciation as a positive number and it'll be automatically deducted. You have the option for other non-current assets, and total non-current assets will populate automatically as well. As you can see, we had the 4 million, 30,000 less 20,000, which is 10,000, and the 10,000 franking machine has given us 4,020,000. Total assets is a locked field and adds up total current assets and total non-current assets. Moving on to current liabilities, we have a list there, and again, any other current liabilities that aren't or don't fit into one of these categories can be added. This will be totaled. Any loans or grant recourse. Grant recourse is populated from note 3. And if there are any other non-current liabilities that don't fit within the categories, these can be created and added. The net assets is populated as total assets less total liabilities. And within the equity and retained earnings, you will have your revaluation reserve, any unrealised gain or losses on assets as calculated cumulatively. And in order to ensure that the balance sheet balances that net assets equals total equity and current liabilities, there's a little check here. Please review all forms to check that net assets equal total liabilities. And this should always be the case when preparing your accounts as a double entry accounting system. We've completed the financial aspect of the annual return. And we're just seeking details of the trust deeds and trustee certificates. Please populate where these are lodged, so which lawyer has the most current trust deed and their address, listing the current trustee's name at 31 December, and the tick box whether or not RSL Custodian Limited is a trustee on personal or real property of the sub-branch, including sales proceeds. The sub-branch has insurance. This is where it can be created. Opening up the field, you'll be able to select which type of insurance cover is held: public liability, trustee and office bearer, personal accident, sub-branch contents, building or motor vehicle, the name of the insurer, and the expiry date of the policy. Here you can see I've populated each of the insurance policies, all with a 31 May 2022 expiry date. On this section, please include the number of full-time and part-time employees. These are the employees who have an employment agreement or are paid directly by the sub-branch. Number of volunteers who volunteer at the sub-branch, that includes trustees, office bearers and any welfare officers or event coordinators, and an estimate of the total volunteer hours for the calendar year period. As we reach the end, we'll select the date that it was prepared. I've prepared it, so I've put my name and telephone number. So you can see if I've made an error, I can always toggle back by clicking previous, and then I can come through again. I'm at the submit page. Before you click submit, you just want to make sure that The office bearers responsible for the information within the annual return have had the opportunity to review and are comfortable with the information provided. And once you've completed that review, click Submit, and it will take us through back to the start of the annual returns list. Thank you so much for watching this instructional video. If you have any questions or feedback, please get in touch with the support unit.